Hello everyone. As a part of my CGM course in IM3G PGP 1921 batch, I'll be talking about Mahindra and Mahindra's global strategy. So before moving, let's try to have a bit of an overview of the company. The group company started in 1945, way back before independence in India. Uh, its parent company is Mahindra Group, and it currently have many subsidiaries across globe. The annual revenues of the company was 13 billion in 2019, and it has a presence in round about 22 industries. But in this analysis, I'll not be taking into consideration the global impacts. So the analysis is done prior to this COVID impacts. Also, some of the key points which Mahindra and Mahindra is primarily known for, because of two industries, that is automotive and the farm equipment industry. In automotive industries, various segments and product categorization that will be taking care and will be discussed in future slides. And in farm and equipment, primarily their primary business is in tractors as a product. So among these industries, I'll be talking primarily about farm equipment, truck and businesses, and automotive industry, and go into a deep dive and how they made a global presence. Let's try to have a deep dive into the product categories. So try to divide the industry into further subcategories based on the products, which is the automotive is divided into utility vehicles and vans and LCVs, whereas trucks and buses into LCVs with the greatest size and the huge and large capacity, and MHCVs primarily consists of the trucks or the carriers. Whereas in farm and equipment, yes, we will be primarily discussing about the tractors. The products and the variants have been displayed. Uh, from an industry point of view, yes, the top competitors, Maruti Suzuki is one of the top competitors for Mahindra and Mahindra in UVs and van segment. From an industry point of view, the industry has been growing at a rapid rate of from 50, it was 15% in 2012, but it slowed down a bit. But still, it's growing at a rate of 6%. But whereas the Mahindra's growth has been exceptional in past decade. Similarly, in the LCVs and the MHCV segments, Tata Motors is one of the biggest competitor to M&M, whereas the overall market has slowed down in buses and the trucks as a segment, but Mahindra and Mahindra has been not performing not as bad as what the industry has been performing, whereas for the farms and equipment parts, yes, similarly, it's growing at it's much faster rate as per the industry average. So why is this happening? Just because of its not because of its presence only in India. Yes, definitely it has a huge presence outside India, and there have been some of the choices that Mahindra and Mahindra took in expanding, which actually helped in large revenues and large profits. Let's try to understand what was the primary reasons for Mahindra and Mahindra to cross borders. So why did they try to globalize their operations? Yes, definitely in way back in 1990s, various norms which actually helped in terms of exports, the liberation in the policies. Secondly, various market were becoming attractive from a host country's perspective, and there was a huge demand, which we'll be covering later in details. The host business environments were one of the key motivations for from the host countries, which is also driving a driving force for as a pull factor for crossing borders. And definitely because of innovations, the countries like South Korea, Japan, and US were the primary reasons which actually the company went abroad. So, seeing from the value chain perspective, yes, definitely the company's primarily objective, if you see in a broad category, have been the globalization of market as their first step, where their marketing and sales functions were actually were done from across borders. But over a period of time, yes, the globalization of production also came into picture, where production and distribution were the primary things that also shifted. So let's try to analyze it from from an automotive industry, let's try to analyze how the sales figures went up while crossing borders. Yes, Mahindra and Mahindra initially started exporting its vehicles to countries like Yugoslavia, African countries, and which were just the market was something somewhat very similar to the Indian market. The developing economy in America and South America were the key drivers. So sourcing strategy and keeping productions within India, that was one of the main key things that actually helped them lowering the cost. Apart from the cheap labor and the cap, which was there in India, and the capabilities that they have developed over five decades, Mahindra followed only one sourcing strategy where they tried to aim to reduce their suppliers by dealing with one dealer for a components. This ultimately gave them the vendor economies of scale and centralized purchasing system, which cut down the cost for productions. Secondly, they definitely after 1990s, the main motive was market seeking, and they wanted to have revenues as their targets. Secondly, how they try to identify the potential market. Yes, African, Middle East, Southeast Asia, as I told earlier, that the market conditions were somewhat similar to what India had. So they moved to these countries. They were developing economies. Definitely not North America as such, and many of the countries in Europe were not targeted. The reason was because of the already tough competition there, and they were actually uh, much advanced in terms of technology and the products. So these were some of the reasons why they've entered these particular countries. The production capacity also was somewhat expanded, and there were four plants in Mumbai, Pune, Nasik, and Zahirabad. So the export was one of the major thing that they were doing it. First, they started with initial indirect exports. Later on, moved to direct export because of uh, and they try to have the distribution partner set up, but over a period of time, somewhat in a similar manner for the tractor industry as such, the levers were the same. The market which all countries were initially targeted were also on a similar line. Yes, we had North America also coming into picture because of the huge agriculture market in North America and Canada. That was one of the primary reasons, and the huge demand. But how they went across in North America was something different from others, which we'll be seeing later. After the sales functions and the marketing activities that was basically moved across, the next step was how they tried to move the manufacturing plants abroad. So just to cover the geography of Africa, they moved to uh, Tunisia as a specific country in Africa. So before trying to understand why they entered these countries for a manufacturing, why they moved from an export model to a bit of a moving their value chain of production to abroad, was because they were facing some of the challenges there. The one of the primary reasons was they wanted to have an adaptation in terms of product. Various small example can be in terms of left hand and right hand of driving, whereas other components also, they need to be they needed a small level of adaptation in other geographies. Also they wanted to have a more control and towards for themselves, and because and brand make themselves a brand, because they had a vision of expanding globally and create that brand across other segments also. Also, high transportation cost problem with local marketing agents was one of the key reasons and the challenges that was faced. And managing operations from abroad also came with a cost. So these were some of the reasons that was, and hence they tried to move to Tunisia in specific. They had an assembly facility in Tunisia, where which was also chosen because it has access to ports, it has proximity to Africa, Central Europe, and Middle East. So likewise, they were able to cover majority of the geographies by this particular plant. So other benefits for the choosing this as a location was cost of labor. It is the country is not can provide you the employment rate. The unemployment rate in the country is huge. The cost of labor becomes low. Past 5 years has been tepid for a middle income developing countries in EMEA region. So this was one of the other benefits why this country was recently in South Africa, because of other players also coming into in automobile sectors in South Africa, and the ease of doing business in Africa as such. South Africa proves to be a uh, better options apart from other countries. So yes, they have also tried to move an assembly facility in uh, South Africa recently. Similarly, from farm and equipment industries, yes, the assembly units were created. The production remained primarily in India, but the assembly units, which to tackle the small level of adaptation, was done in there were assembly plants in USA. Africa, and Australia. In USA, a huge market and low competitions was one of the primary reasons, whereas in automobile there was a huge competition in USA, and they were able to found a 350 dealer network there, so they can create being a having a presence in South in America made them able to create a strong dealer network, which actually reduced them the transportation cost. Secondly, moving the assembly lines to Africa, but on almost a similar line, definitely the cost of labor also came into picture, which actually helped them bringing down the cost. For an Australia, yes, huge import tariffs were there. That's why building a okay, making a production unit in terms of assembly was the prime reasons for moving to Australia. Uh, Coming back to automotive industry, we talked about how the assembly units were planned in for both the industries in various geographies. Now coming to some of the more core functions like the R&D also moving to some of the other abroad. So let's try to analyze one by one. Moving from the country called South Korea in automotive industry, yes, product innovation was one of the key factors that was driving the industry. Definitely a geography like South Korea helped them in adding volumes for covering the Southeast Asian market, differentiating the product in terms of product innovations, normalizing risk, and generating knowledge. So what they actually did, they went into a strategic alliance with a company there, and since the competitors like Tata's, they made a strong alliance with brands like Jaguar, but in terms because of the high cost of acquisition of such a good brand, and they required a lot of capital, which Mahindra and Mahindra current didn't had at that particular moment. So they strategically took a company called SsangYong in South Korea, which can actually help them in giving them the access to the latest technologies. So the prime reasons for product development and engine manufacturing, apart from just the modern parts. So also the company there had a huge dealer network, which can actually help them in which actually helped them in creating a strong operations in the Southeast Asian market. So this was also a reason why, and why South Korea was a strategic alliance was done with the company in South Korea. Moving ahead, the from an R&D functions, yes, global sourcing in R&D and production also cross borders. R&D and production facility moves to Italy to gain the art of creating world's finest design. So production facility in Italy, South Korea, and India. Basically, now there were three production facilities, and they've all worked in tandem. So here comes the beauty of the global sourcing, where the different functions were done at different places. From a long-term strategy, just something away from automotive and the SUVs part, yes, this is something Mahindra in a futuristic manner also trying to have a bit of a say in their electronic vehicle markets, both in two-wheelers and four-wheelers. So they have also tried to make an alliance with some of the companies in Silicon Valley in USA. So these were also some of the reasons why they crossed borders in automotive sector. Now coming back to the farms and equipment. So in farms and equipments, yes, they initially went with China, but it was a failed move. Entering into China was a tough task. So they went with a JV with a company there, just to remove the liability of foreign agents. But they sold all the stake of 51% of stake in 2017. The primary reason was because of the huge taxes, and they were not able to. They were not profitable because of the organization, the cultural differences between the two companies participating. So what next? Selling out their stake, they got the capital, and they are trying to come up with an independent company. Maybe they will be doing it as a wholly owned subsidiary, or they will be trying their whole manufacturing setup in China. That can be a tough task, but yes, they want to create a niche, and they want to operate in rice transplantation, harvester, and plant implementation. That's not the tractors part. So that's the story for the China. Secondly, in Finland, they also went with 79% stake by 2020. They built a significant they built a significant business in its core market like Europe, Eurasian countries, and North Africa. That's why the strategic location of Finland was chosen. New range alliance with a company called Sampo was done because it provided a range of opportunities in terms of again the technological improvements, since Mahindra and Mahindra are the leaders in tractor manufacturing. They want to move in various dimensions, and the market in the tractor industries is trying to adopt various variations, and combined harvesting as a thing is coming in the recent era, so which don't have a presence in India as such. So they want to leverage and use the acquisition they did in Finland. They want that was the prime source of and the motive. Also in Japan they did a joint venture while taking 33% stake in Mitsubishi. It was a recent thing that happened, and the prime motive again was the generating knowledge and adding volumes along with differentiating their product. The new tractors platform called K2 they are trying to develop there, which will help in coming up with an intelligent tractors which can actually help enhancing the agriculture productivity as such. So these were some of the reasons why the companies moved from not only it's not only the sales and the marketing function, from sales and marketing to distribution, and now they are also trying to move the production functions also abroad, where production and R&D. So it comes like a global as a vision. They are trying to have a global outsourcing, and that will be all about Mahindra and Mahindra as an analysis. Thanks a lot.